A full schedule can lie to you. Your crew can be busy, jobs can be getting done, invoices can be going out, revenue can look solid, and the business can still feel tight. That is because being busy is not the same thing as being profitable. If labor runs long, materials cost more than expected, overhead is not included, or the job is priced too thin from the start, the work can look good from the outside, but barely leave anything behind. That is the trap. A busy installation business can still be leaking profit job by job. I'm Josh Savage, founder of Savage Financials. I help installation contractors get clear visibility into cash flow, job profitability, payroll pressure, and where money is leaking from the business. And one of the biggest shifts I help contractors make is moving from "we're busy, so we must be doing fine" to "we know which jobs are actually making money." That difference matters because the goal is not just more work, the goal is work that actually supports the business. I worked with a contractor a while back that kept getting stuck in the same cycle. Things would be going pretty well, so they decided it was time to grow. They'd start taking on more jobs, the schedule would fill up, and revenue would start climbing. Then everything would start getting chaotic. Cash got tight, payroll became stressful, they'd have jobs waiting on customer payments while suppliers and employees still had to be paid. Instead of thinking the issue was the jobs themselves, they thought it was simply a cash flow problem. Their solution was to increase their line of credit so they'd have more cash available while they kept growing. The problem was that would have just let them do more of what was already creating the pressure. The line of credit would have given them more flexibility for a while, but it also meant interest expenses every month. Now cash flow had another expense working against it, while encouraging them to take on even more jobs, being for fixing the underlying problem. As they took on more work, the cash demands of the business increased even faster. More materials had to be purchased up front, more payroll had to be covered before customers paid, more jobs meant more crews to coordinate, more deliveries to schedule, more moving pieces, and more chances for delays, change orders, and estimate overruns. When cash started getting tight, those operational problems got even worse. They delayed ordering materials until cash came in and pushed projects back. Crews would finish one project, but couldn't always roll straight into the next because materials hadn't arrived or something wasn't ready. They'd hire people when work picked up, but things became too chaotic and they pulled back. They couldn't keep everyone busy. Eventually, they started relying on temporary subs because it gave them flexibility. But those crews charged higher than full-time employees, so jobs kept creeping up. Then things would settle down. Cash would stabilize. They'd decide it was time to grow again, and the whole cycle would repeat itself. The biggest problem was they couldn't even reliably forecast what the business was going to do. They knew cash always seemed to get tight, but they couldn't point to where or why it was happening, or even when. Without that visibility, every decision was just a guess. So instead of trying to forecast the business first, we started at the job level. We built out job underwriting so every project showed its expected profitability, cash inflows, cash outflows, and timing from the day it started until the day it was collected. Then we rolled all of those individual jobs together into one rolling forecast for the business. That's when everything became obvious. Even the good jobs weren't always getting paid on time, so they created cash pressure. The average jobs weren't performing as well as they thought. Then there were bad jobs that lost enough money to wipe out the profit from several good ones. The first time they could actually see weeks ahead where cash was going to get tight and payroll pressure was coming, and now taking on another project would affect every other job already in progress. They realized they hadn't misunderstood growth. They misunderstood what growth demands from a business. Growth puts pressure on cash flow. It puts pressure on crews. It puts pressure on purchasing, scheduling, and operations. If you don't have systems to handle those pressures, getting busier just creates more chaos. Once the underwriting system and rolling forecasts were in place, they stopped taking jobs just because they had capacity. They started taking the right jobs at the right time with clear understanding of what those jobs would do to the rest of the business. Cash flow became predictable. The crews became more stable. They weren't constantly hiring and pulling back and scrambling anymore. For the first time, they could actually grow on purpose instead of just getting busier. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions I see with contractors. They assume that if they can just get one more job, everything will get easier. More revenue, more profit, more cash. But that's not how it works. Every new job also comes with more labor, more materials, more scheduling, more payroll, more purchasing, more customer communication, and more cash leaving the business before cash comes back in. If you don't have the systems to support that growth, every new job increases complexity just as fast as it increases revenue, sometimes even faster. That's why being busy doesn't guarantee you're making more money. I've seen contractors increase revenue while making less profit, not because they forgot how to do the work, because every additional job created enough operational pressure that margins slowly disappeared. Crews became less efficient, overtime became more common, material purchases became rushed, temporary labor became necessary, jobs started getting delayed, customers' changes slipped through. The business got busier, but it didn't get healthier. That's why I don't think the goal should ever be to simply book more work. The goal is to know that every additional job is actually making the business stronger. Can your crews handle it? Can your cash flow support it? Will the purchasing and scheduling still work? Will the margins still be there when the job is finished? If you can't confidently answer those questions, taking another job can actually reduce profit while increasing stress. That's exactly why we started with the jobs. Every business forecast is really just a collection of job forecasts. If you can't reliably predict the cash flow and profitability of an individual job, you can't reliably predict the cash flow of the business. Once you have that visibility, growth stops becoming a guessing game. You stop taking jobs just because there's an opening on the schedule. Take jobs because you know they'll strengthen the business. That's the difference between getting busier and actually becoming more profitable. The goal is not to guess after the job is over. The goal is to know what the job should produce before it starts, track what changed while it was happening, and understand what was left after the work is done. That is what gives you control. You stop relying on gut feel. You stop assuming revenue equals profit. You stop wondering why the bank account feels wrong after a busy week. Because when job profit is clear, decisions get easier, pricing gets sharper, payroll feels less chaotic, growth becomes more controlled, and the business starts feeling like something you can actually lead instead of something you were constantly chasing. Next month, we're going to come back to these same problems from a different angle, starting with how a cleaner quote can protect profit before the job ever starts. And if you want help seeing which jobs are actually making money and which ones are quietly draining the business, book a call here at savagefinancials.com.